How do you fix inactive glutes? After years of helping my clients with glute activation, I decided to make a video on how to fix common problems. Do you ever get burning hip flexors instead of glutes? Instead of your glutes burning up, do you get your back aching? These are just some of the problems that you could encounter. You could be anterior dominant, feeling your quads burning up instead of your glutes, and your back aching instead of your core. Long hours of sitting nowadays can really affect our glute activation. Our hip flexors get too tight and our glutes become very inactive. We're going to aim to get full hip extension and glute activation by using several different techniques. We're first going to release and lengthen your muscles, then mobilize, activate and strengthen. For maximum benefit, you can warm up quickly for 5 minutes, perhaps on a treadmill or bike before this routine. To find out more about our methods, you can download our free ebook in the description below. First, we're going to roll a massage ball over the TFL. This is where you would put your hand in your front pocket. If you're super sore, you can go as far as rolling the whole quad. I'd recommend rolling for 1 to 2 minutes per side. Unless you don't feel much at all, then move on. Rolling definitely works better for some people. Some people get better release from simple movement, which we're going to do next. If you're not feeling much when rolling, just skip this part. Next, we're going to roll the piriformis. Rolling is known to increase blood flow and proprioception. If you're sitting down all day, you're likely to have pretty lazy glutes that have fallen asleep as you've been sitting on them. If this is too painful for you, I'll link in the description below a scaled back version. Again, we're going to go for 1 to 2 minutes per side. I genuinely have no idea why I'm laughing in this clip. It's probably something to do with the dogs. Next, we're doing a kneeling hip flexor stretch. Make sure to roll the hips under and squeeze the glute on the back leg. You should feel the stretch at the front of the hip. If your hips are quite tight, you may feel the stretch lower down the thigh. But if the stretch is very uncomfortable for you and you end up bent forward like this, then I would suggest taking your foot off the bench and keeping it completely on the ground. Next, we're moving on to an active pigeon stretch. In order to perform this, you must first be comfortable in this position. Your hips should be level and your foot should be parallel in front of your body. We're going to slowly and with control move up and down, taking some strength from the back foot and some strength from the front thigh. We're going to finish this off with an isometric contraction at the top for 5 to 10 seconds. The key here is to always keep a neutral spine and steady level hips. If you struggle with this, you can try something a little bit lower, or you can work on your pigeon stretch for a little bit longer. By bringing the hands up, we're adding weight to our body and taking away from the assistance of our hands on the bench. Next, we're doing some activation using banded lateral raises. First, bring your hips back so your knee is in line with your heel. Push your big toe into the ground for balance and push your knee outwards. Some amount of wobbling is fairly normal. Just try to keep pulling your belly button up towards your spine and keep a neutral spine. As you can see here, I'm trying my best to keep my knees in line with my heels and trying my best to keep a straight spine. If you do feel this at the front of your legs, simply try to bring your hips further back or stop, roll, stretch and try again. Next, we're doing hip extension. Push your ribs down and tuck your hips under. We're going to isometrically contract for 10 seconds, keeping the hips nice and equal and making sure the spine does not bend. Try to lock out your leg and focus on the glute. I tend to go for 3 to 5 rounds for maximum activation. For added difficulty, you can add ankle weights. Next, we're doing some stability work to work on our ability to push the knee outwards. Grab a light band and make sure it's pulling your knee inwards, so you have to push outwards against it. You're going to perform split stance squats, as many as you need to feel activation. Next, we're doing deficit split stance squats. You can use 2 plates or 2 boxes. If you can't go down without your spine bending, simply work with what you do have. Make sure you tuck your hips under to neutral. You may feel a stretch at the front of your hip. Try to imagine the banded drill you just did to help you with balance. Take a video of yourself if you're not sure if your spine is bending. Next, we're doing hip extension on a bench. This will allow you to stretch your glutes via bringing your knees into hip flexion in line with your hips. From here, you're going to push your feet outwards and go into full hip extension. Make sure that your back does not arch and that your hips stay neutral. You can pause at the top for maximum activation, and you can also end with a 10-second isometric. If you find this easy, you can also add a light to medium band between your feet. If you're still struggling to get activation, you can do an incline bench glute bridge. This will allow for a greater glute stretch to hip extension. You can try varying levels of step. I have found that people who tend to get back aches doing glute bridges tend to be okay with elevated glute bridges. Again, like most of these movements, you can finish them off with a 10-second isometric, really focusing on pushing the knees out and squeezing the glutes for maximum activation. Isometrics have been studied to be one of the best ways to get muscle activation. Now, the important part of building strength. This is just one of many movements you can do. You could also work on perfecting your pistol squats, your front squat and your back squat for maximum glute activation. Here we're simply picking a medium to light weight to do hip thrusts with. I find 12 to 15 reps plus a 10-second isometric at the end to be very effective. Looking after your full range of motion in your joints will help you get maximum activation in all your muscles, not just when it comes to your hips and glutes. If you haven't already, please subscribe.